So once these four frame or these two keyframes are in between, I'll cycle it a second time. So it's not that I'm halfway done with. So I just want you to understand that I'm not halfway done with the second layer. I'm almost done with the second layer.
Well, I think it's looking okay. I'm worried that the purple clouds on the bottom are going backwards.
I noticed that too when I was what was I say, when I was doing it when I was animating this, I was going like one direction in mind. It's just that it's going so fast it looks like it's also could be going the other way.
It
And
does look like it's going backwards. So
yeah.
go back to that little key I drew for. And you know what? The little debris looks like it's going backwards too.
How does debris look like it's going backwards?
It's going backwards. Are you sure that the whole thing isn't going backwards?
No, the debris at the very least looks like it's going to the tornado.
Yeah, that's not right. It should be going away from it.
Why would it be going away? I thought tornadoes suck things in.
I don't know. How did you animate it? Go on your debris layer. And just touch the debris. Touch the first key on the timeline. Touch it. Touch the key. Yeah, touch it. All right, now hit G. Keep going.
Hang on a sec. I just realized, is there two?
Nope, stop. Go back to frame 1. Now hit G. And just keep G. You animated it going backwards. I don't know how you managed this.
I don't know either. I just was like, things get sucked into a tornado, so wouldn't the debris be getting sucked into it?
No, the debris goes out.
I want to die.
The debris gets kicked out of it. The stuff that gets sucked into the tornado comes from the ground.
The debris is from the ground. That's why it's getting sucked into it.
Right from the core, right from the very core, and then it gets kicked out.
I see.
It would be inconceivable for debris that is 500 feet away to be sucked in that quickly.
Okay, so what's the quick, easy fix?
Let me see if there's a quick fix. Go ahead and stop sharing.
There has to be like a way to reverse.
Yeah, let me
cycle.
See. Stop sharing.
In fact, I'm almost certain there is. Give me 1 second.
All right, I'm going to show you one particular way that you might be able to save it. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
And this is good for everybody. This isn't the best fix, but it should work. Okay. So I have I have the smoke that I did. Remember we were doing the little volcano smoke right here?
Yeah.
A couple weeks ago. And in this example, I was showing you all how to animate with one drawing into a key drawing and then do the breakdowns. You know, that was a very worthwhile and practical thing to learn how to do and to set the timing. Well, let's say that you made a mistake like you just did and it was backwards. I thought there was, maybe I'm thinking of Flash.
I could have sworn there was one on Harmony too, though.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I haven't done this before in Harmony, but here's a way to do it. So you've got the smoke in this layer right here, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up a new layer. a new drawing layer, and I'm just going to call this, the original layer was called keys. So this one's going to be keys, and then I'm going to write just backward, BW for backward. I'm going to add and close. I'm going to make sure it winds up, okay, so it's in the right place right here.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on a second. I thought I heard someone arriving in Zoom. Hold on 1 second.
There's edit feature called paste reverse, so I just copied the cells and
Oh, there you
I
go.
got. Yeah,
So
I figured it out.
So what'd you do? You copied it?
Yeah, and then if you go to edit, there's paste reverse. I'll show you.
Copy.
I can.
Copy cells. Then you go here.
Then if you go up to the edit symbol, oh yeah, paste special, right lower by 3 more. There's paste reverse. It's right above delete.
Paste reverse. All right, so that should fix
go.
it for you.
Yep.
The other way that I was going to tell you is a little more manually, which was you would just take this drawing right here, the last drawing that you had, remember, is your first drawing, so you don't need it. But you could just take this and copy it and paste it in this timeline, in this level. And then you just have to remember where you are, right? You just kind of write your numbers down and copy and paste each one in reverse.
Yeah.
You know, one thing that I just want you to check on, and that is that once you've done that, you might have created symbols. So just be careful. Creating symbols in Toon Boom and in Flash it's a good thing, but you have to remember what you're doing. If you can't figure out why you can't change things, it's probably because you created a symbol. So paste in reverse, I don't know that one. So let's just check it here. I'll show you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to say copy, cells from the timeline. We're going to go right here. We're going to say paste reverse. And now I'm going to go to my
I see. If you modify
first,
your original one, it might mess
so I'm
up
going to go to the
reverse one.
first drawing, and I'm just going to pick out a horrible color, and I'm just going to put like a little circle right here. Toon Boom is not behaving. Okay, so then I want to go to this drawing. So you could be in luck if
You'd have to go on the.
if you only had one instance of each thing on the stage, then you could be in luck. So.
Well, I'd check. Wouldn't you have to check the last frame of the reverse version?
Well,
to
it
see
depends.
If it
I mean, it depends on in your animation if you had copy and pasted it twice in the timeline, and then you copied and pasted and then paste reverse in the timeline in a new timeline.
Yeah.
Then you're gonna have trouble.
I
but
see.
because go ahead and share your screen again.
You have to.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. All right, here you go.
All right, so I just wanted to check on a couple other things. So this darker purple isn't done yet. You're still kind of working on it.
Yeah, I have 2 more frames to sort of in between, or I'm sorry, 4 more frames. If you can, 2 more keyframes, but that would lead to 4 more in betweens. After that, it just cycles again. So.
All right, and then remember that you've got clouds in this.
Yeah,
atmosphere.
That's the big concern. I
So
still have a third, possibly 4th layer.
Do.
I know.
All right, so get it done. Do you have anything that you would like to show me for your final at the moment?
No, unfortunately not.
And you were supposed to be showing me stuff for your final today, so you are behind.
I'm aware.
It's looking okay, but get it done.
No, I know.
And make sure things don't go backwards. Okay. Thank you. Farah, would you like to show me your tornado, please?
Sure, let me get it open. I closed the application. I'm having some computer issues right now. It'll be a moment. Can you skip me for now? I'm having some computer issues.
I'll come back to you. Mark?
Okay, here's my tornado, or what I have of it.
Oh, all of you still aren't done. Okay, so I'm worried that there's a jump between the first frame and the last frame. So how much more work do you plan on doing to get those clouds to make sure they're circling all the way around? How many more drawings do you plan on doing?
Maybe I think like 5. I think.
Well, it's looking pretty good. I like the slow movement of it and the ominous of it, but it's not looping yet. Your lightning is okay. The debris is okay. I think that you would do well to have more of it. I think that
Okay.
you should also have some upper atmosphere clouds. And this little bit of dust at the bottom down here, go ahead and pause your playback.
Oh, like right here.
Yeah, I think that what would be better is if you thought about it in terms of like a dust storm, and you just kind of animated like several frames of something that looked like this. And that could just be the front. You could also even put like a couple of lines in the back just to describe that there's a dust. This part right here might be a little down, so that might be okay right there. And then you could also even do like little puffs of smoke that animate outwards and then just dissipate. But I think that that would be better than the cone thing that you've got here, because I'm not buying that. I think that this little cone thing right here it's one thing, but I don't think it's the best. The thing I just drew for you is okay. But if you were thinking of making it a cone, well, actually, I don't think that you should make it a cone, because this thing is just kicking up a dust storm. Like let's just say that the tornado was like had a path like this, right? And it's coming through the neighborhood, and when it's doing that, it's kicking up a whole bunch of dust. And so, yeah, I think the correct way to draw the dust would probably be something like this, or something like that, rather than just a little cone. I think the other thing is that, right, you've got like this house back here, but I think that you could definitely go at your background a little more. You've got these faraway trees here, but go ahead and put some perspective in there. Go ahead and draw some near houses up here and some near farm equipment or something. It's because you've got a lot of open space. So, dress up your background. Remember that you are making a portfolio piece. So it looks good. You just got to finish it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
I've been just trying to like push myself to like implement everything. So yeah.
And stop paying attention to all your other classes, because this is your favorite class.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Daniel. Show me your tornado.
There we go. Hello. Okay. It's looping. It's looping. Okay.
All right, it's looking pretty good. So there's a couple of things that I would suggest for you.
Yep.
And that is, it doesn't look done.
Okay.
You've got like one ribbon of smoke right here, and then another ribbon right there. So technically, and another ribbon here. So you've got like 3 ribbons. I would suggest putting another ribbon like right in here. And then
In
a
the center.
couple other ones up here. Because it's doing quite a bit of damage to your environment.
Okay.
So kick it up. Yeah, I think that you need four more at least. I think the debris is looking okay, but I think that you could also use a little dust storm down here. Did you want any lightning?
I mean, I can. Sure. Why not? I mean,
It's
all these
easy.
additions you're giving me shouldn't take that long. So, I mean, I should be able to add them.
Yeah, it's easy. I don't like this one puffy little cloud right here. I think that if you're going to do this, you should have a whole bunch of clouds up in the atmosphere here. So, and it looks like you've got this that gray one right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's fine, but I think that you need a couple others.
Okay.
I'm not convinced about this little line right here, just kind of wiggling around. It's not the best. It's not the very best. So you might do well to just animate a bunch of clouds that are just covering that up, and not have to deal with it too much. The other thing that you could do is these little white lines here are looking pretty good, but I would suggest maybe putting in a whole bunch more. Because they're the speed lines we talked about, right?
Right,
So
right.
just animate a whole bunch more and just do like one pass at it, and do like this one going 1, 2, 3, 4, and then skip 5 and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Skip 5 and 6. Start, and so there's like that little. It'll give you a more detail of the speed lines in the clouds itself.
Okay.
Think about your colors. I think that if you squint at it, you're not passing the squint test. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, it looks too
think
similar.
you need all contrast. It's also kind of looking like a chubby carrot. I don't know what you can do. It's possible that if this center core here is on 1 or 2 layers, you might be able to go to this drawing or this tool here and reposition all drawings and make it skinnier, just so that it doesn't look like such a chubby carrot. And the actual core.
I see.
The actual core might look better. So, try that. Reposition all drawings and just kind of squish it laterally. Just don't squish it up and down. Just squeeze it. Might make it look a little better.
Got it.
How many layers are on that? Your core.
Just one. It's just one.
So you
shading.
And then so that's 2. So you got the core and the exterior.
Right. Yes.
So try that. It's just looking a little chubby. And if it doesn't work, just finish the clouds. And remember, you've got all this deep background to deal with too.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Thank you, Daniel.
No problem.
Hey, Jesse. Can you show me your tornado?
Yeah, one moment.
All right, I think they are doing okay here. I don't think I saw this one last week.
It just wasn't colored. It was more rough
It
last
was
week.
just pencil lines.
Yeah.
So a couple of things. I think that oops, I'm using a real pen on my Wacom tablet. I think that these little white and purple things, I'm not sure if they're moving correctly. It's like this one stops. Remember that the whole idea, if you were going to use eighths, was to make sure that each ribbon moved around, and you were tracking it, because this one right there, it looks like it stops right in front, and that's what it kind of be moving the fastest. I also think you need more of them. It's kind of inconceivable that there'd be this open space right here, and even this open space, especially this whole open space right here, just in terms of the white and purple. So consider that just to make an improvement on it. And again, I think that just like someone else we were just talking to, these little white speed lines, I think you want to try to get them to move across. So get them to move all the way around it. And so more of them, because I think you've got the little speed lines on the outside, which is one thing. It's kind of one way of handling it. But I think that you want to make sure that just like, well, we'll just use this one this time. So this one's moving faster. This is 6 instead of 8. And so you draw the speed lines here, right? That's this one. And then here, and then that's this way. And so and keep track of this. I think that it's okay to have the little lines on the outside as speed lines, but you're missing the ones that animate straight across, especially the white lines.
Mhm.
All right, so then you've got this purple and gray bit of smoke in the top. You need more up here.
Okay.
You need more. And according to the rules of art and composition, you're missing a whole bunch of stuff in this area here. Remember that you've got the tornado coming in, and it's on the center focal point, but you really need to pay attention to the rest of the composition. I'm not convinced about the little cloud bursts down here. I think that you should try to make it more ominous, more spread out.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that. Because it's just a little inconceivable that it would hug the wind right there. I think your debris is looking okay. I think you just need a lot more of it. I'm not convinced that the debris would have the little tail on it. I think that that's your call. You can certainly do that, but the debris that has a little tail on it is looking more like the volcano. It's looking
Okay.
more like the hot molten rocks coming out of a volcano.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, and I think it's okay, but I think it would be better if you just had a lot more of it. All right, thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready now.
Okay.
All right. Let me just change this color real quick. This is really good. I know today's the deadline, so I just tried to get done as much as I could. Just focus on what was most important.
So, yeah, I think that it's looking a little flat right here. I think that you definitely need to get in there and add at least, one in a middle core, and then even a center core that you can animate and paint so that it gives it more depth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So having done that, I think that you need more of these little ribbons, a lot more, like maybe 8 times more ribbons. And again, remember, you've got 4 main focal points that you're not covering yet aesthetically. I think that you've got the debris, you've got some debris down here, but I think that it's too small. And I think that you should make the little pieces bigger so that we can see them. And remember that if this tornado is whipping around about 150 to 200 miles an hour, that it could easily throw stuff out all the way over here. All right, and then I think you need a variety of clouds, ribbon clouds that are going around the center. I definitely think you need more of a variety. So, and then I think that this top cloud up here is moving just a little bit too erratically. I don't think that it looks like it's animating. I think it's just wiggling around. So if what I'm seeing right here is that this little bumpy cloud stuff up here, it doesn't have the idea of the swing of the perspective that we were talking about. And because of that, what it does is it ends up putting the vanishing point right here, which means that you're in an airplane rather than being on the ground and the horizon being here and the vanishing point being here. And the reason that I say that, because if you draw your grid out, just for the sky, sorry, a little
That's all
messy right there, then any of these would have a circle in it, right? The idea of drawing a circle in perspective is that you would fill that in. And so up here, if there's a big square up here, then that means that there'd be a swing to it like that. And so because this cloud stuff up here is really flat, it looks like your vanishing point is right here. I don't think that's the best aesthetic. I think the best thing you could do is get your layout to reflect that there's circular motion happening, and remember that the circular motion is counterclockwise, and so that means that this would be behind the tornado and it would be going this way, and then as it would come up in front of the tornado you wouldn't see it because it's out of camera, but then you would have a bump like this, maybe a little one, a medium one, maybe a bigger one, maybe something like this, a smaller one, something like that. And then you would animate each one of these nodes going counterclockwise. Kind of like we did with the smoke and a bunch of other things. And again, I think you need your debris down here. Right, so you got some work to do here still, Farah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Chrissy? Chrissy? Okay, so you know, this thing is just kind of like 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. It's got like a pretty sporadic animation key set to it, so that it's got like an extreme over here and an extreme over here, and it goes 1 2 1 2 1 2. That's not the absolute best way to animate a tornado, but I think that if you wanted to play with that, then you would want to make sure that these little bands of clouds right here were actually moving correctly. So I'm going to go all the way back to that little diagram again. Pick whether you want those clouds to move around on 8, or you want them to move around on 6s, or even on 4s. And then plot them around so that they actually move and that you can see that they're moving correctly. You know, it's not the hardest thing to keep track of. You do want to make them counterclockwise. Yeah, so yeah, I don't think that they're capturing in the idea of that counterclockwise movement either on 4 frames, 6 frames, or 8 frames. I also think you need more of a variety of color in here. You've got this blue, you've got this lighter blue, you've got this darker magenta down, not magenta, more violet down here. And so try some magenta within the tornado itself and some little pieces of hot orange and hot yellow.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just to like jazz it up and have fun with it. Even red, you know,
Yeah.
all the way to pure red.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this looks really depressing. Like, the more I
You know,
look
you
at
owe it to yourself as an artist to say, you know, so this is a pretty big volcano or a tornado here, anywhere between 500 and 750 feet tall. And so this house right here would definitely be in the foreground. And if
Yeah.
it is in the foreground, you need quite a bit more detail. That's the whole idea with foreground elements. You would need the chimney, you know, you'd need the windows, you need some sort of porch or something. Just because it's on the focal point, it's in the foreground. So don't make it out of focus like this. You know, this one's over here, this is the barn or something. But I think that you could give that one some mid-ground detail too. And this is looking mid-ground as well. And so just go in there and like do some reference for what a neighborhood might look like and what the trash cans might look like, and give this more of a detail here. And then in the deep background, then you can draw houses back here and kind of let it dissipate towards the center focal point of your tornado. But then you do have an area here and an area here, which could easily be your clouds. And I don't know if we talked about this last week, but you do have like a view of this where you can see down the middle of the tornado.
Yeah.
And instead of like going with that, it might be easier to just kind of get some clouds to cover up the top of it. And again, just pick whether you're on 6s or 8s or whatever, and draw some foreground clouds that are kind of covering it up, and then come around from behind it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then go back to your color palette. You've got the blues, so you're going to need the reds. You know, that's split complementary would be the adding reds and yellows. And don't be afraid to make some of the debris white. It'll have a nice contrast to it. Thanks, Chrissy. Okay, Key.
All right.
All right, I'm just studying it here for a second. I'm worried about a couple of things. One is that it looks like you paid very close attention to these little nubs going counterclockwise and moving. And I think that's okay. It's a little strange to see it cycling all the way up and through, especially when this stuff right here isn't animated. I think that would help. And I also think that what might help is that you've got kind of a perspective on the top of the tornado here, and a vanishing point that's probably on a horizon that's like down here somewhere. And so having said that, you know, you're all going to get into trouble with your perspective teacher, or me, because what's happening is that if you do follow that, and then this is working here, then that means this smoke should be more like this.
Mm-hmm.
It should conform more to the rules of perspective. And so, yeah, it can do this over here for sure, but the actual tornado spinning here should have more of a elliptical, more of an oval shape in the top right there. So, because this is looking a little strange, that it's missing this volume. All right, and then yeah, again, I think that you want to pay attention to your focal points, right? You know what's going on there. You can certainly put clouds or debris or something, and I think that just by the camera angle, you don't have your debris, right? But I think it should still be there. So the other thing is that you know, don't just do this randomly. If you're going to draw some telephone poles, then draw the telephone pole and follow the rules of perspective, so that the way to set perspective on things that repeat like this in perspective is to draw a line that is from the top to the bottom, and then from the top to the bottom, and then that locates the next one. So, and then so these two lines are parallel, and then top to the bottom. That's how you set perspective. So from this one, from the ground plane, this line would be parallel, and then that locates the next one. And then draw the little cross in there, and then once again, so that one's off screen. As long as these things are as close to the tornado as you have them, it might make sense to draw one of them kind of bending this way, and then you in between it, right? And then make another one so that it's bending this way. You're not going to need a lot, just a little bit of motion, so that so it's going back and forth. You know, it's going back and forth. And so especially this one, and especially this one, and those two can be in sync with each other, so that these two kind of both go to the right at the same time, and then the other two go to the left at the same time. And once you've got that little reciprocal motion, the way that it'll set up for you is that this center one is frame 1, and then this one would be frame 2, and then this extreme would be frame 3. And then the way you play this out in the timeline, in order to shake this correctly, you go from position 1 to position 2 to position 3, and then position 2, and then position 1 again. And then you go to position 4, and then this is position 5. And so you go 1, 4, 5, 4, 1. Do you understand? So what this does is, if this is on 2s, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 frames on 2s, which is 18 total frames, which is just over 2/3 of a second. And so that would mean that the telephone poles would be going like this. They would be shaking like this. And you have to look at me in your monitor, right? It would be like really quickly. So then if you want it, if it 2s is too slow, then put it on 3s. And once you're okay with the 2s or 3s and this idea of bending like this, then go in and put the wires on it. Then go in and back in and then draw the wires, just connecting the parts. I think it'll be much more interesting, much more successful. You are really just gray right here, and a couple of things to think about would be is that you've applied in the paint bucket tool a linear gradient that goes from a gray to a dark gray over here. And so what it's doing is it's giving you a sense of light. It's putting the sun kind of over here. And you painted it in a couple of different positions so that the gradient is just wiggling around a little bit. It's not the most horrible thing, but I think that if you fix this so that you've got some sort of technical perspective in here, to get the perspective correct, and then I think that you need some debris that's coming around the center core of or some ribbons of smoke going around the core. This stuff here really, really needs to be animated. And then think about these telephone poles just wiggling around. And then you need your debris. So I think that you can improve this by just those points.
Thank you.
Thanks, Keith. Linksy.
Yeah, I'm here. Let me share my screen. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. No, I forgot to open this one.
Okay. All right. So, this is pretty wild. The volcano is pretty, I always do that, don't I? The tornado is pretty stylized. I think that what'll help improve this is if you give yourself could you pause it just for one moment?
Okay.
Yeah, just pause it. So touch on a tornado layer.
Tornado layer. This one?
Yeah, that's fine. So I think that what you've got is a pretty stylized motion, and you've got a pretty stylized design of the tornado as well. But I think that what might help it is if you go into each frame and you just give yourself like I don't know what you would call it. It's not like, it's just an outline of everything like this. And you do a paint to line out there so it's going to be like a silhouette or shadow. And what this will do, and then just do a new one for each one of the tornadoes, and then fill it in with gray, and then go to your node library and give it a transparency, try 50% at first, painted gray, give yourself a new gray, painted gray. Because what's happening is that there's so much style, and you could also put a blur on it, so a transparency and a blur.
Okay.
So both a transparency and a blur, because I'm going to clear this. So go ahead and play it again. Because what you have happening is that you've got this really erratic and crazy thing happening here, but it ends up looking very graphic because it's supposed to be clouds. Instead, you have this stuff whirling around here that actually has more of a hard surface kind of look to it, and that little exterior thing will help to soften it up a little bit.
Okay.
So so stop it on one of the lightnings, please.
Lightning part?
Yeah, your lightning needs a little work.
This one or this one?
So touch it. So I think this is too much.
Oh.
I think that what you want to do is you want to just get the lightning to look like that the electricity is trying to find one particular place to land, rather than being like a fork. So this amount of spray, variation here, splay is not the best. So try something more. One frame comes out, the next frame has another part to it, the third frame, and then the fourth frame, and then it finds its final destination. So, and you could just do it just like that, 1, 2, 3. And then if you wanted to, you could add a couple of little details on the fifth frame. And then it looks more like lightning rather than just something like, it doesn't look like the best lightning. Right now, it just looks kind of like, almost like peeling paint.
Okay.
So, and you don't want that. So you want to make it more electricity driven.
Okay.
Go ahead and play it again. Let it play. So yeah, I think that your debris could use some work here. I think that it's moving around just a little erratically.
Mhm.
And you, again, I think that you can complement that by animating yourself just kind of like a cloud that is,
Okay.
so you got one, and then make like 2 or 3 different variations where the cloud is, and remember that the motion is that this stuff is kicking up here. I also think that you could explore a better sense of color. You've got whites and gray, or blues and grays and brown. And so remember, you've got your whole palette available to you.
Okay.
I also think that you want to try to work with some sort of cloud bank in the distance,
Okay.
because this is looking a little bleak right here.
Uh-huh.
There's nothing going on your main cinematic thirds.
Yeah.
And really, if this is your foreground element, if these are your foreground elements, show me some detail in here.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
That how to do the like 50% transparent color?
Okay, so
I'm not really know how to do that.
So I'll walk you through it. So
Okay.
touch the layer down here. You want to add the node to it. Just touch it.
Let me see. I have this one. And touch this one?
All right, that would be fine.
Okay.
And I can't read it. So I believe this is the node library over here.
Node library.
Right
Yes.
here. It should say node library. Over here where my mouse is, on the right.
Where?
Over here on the right. Over here.
I can't see that.
I can't read this. It's in a different language. What does this say right here? What does this say right here?
I can't see your mouse. I don't know where you want me to read.
How can you not see my mouse?
Yeah,
see my
I
drawings?
can.
Can you see this?
Let me see.
Can you see this line right here?
Yeah, I can see that line,
Right
but
here.
I can't see your mouse.
Right here.
Oh, okay. That's the timeline.
What does this say? There's your node library. Nope,
Yeah.
go back. Go
this
back.
one?
Yeah, leave it there.
Oh, okay.
Now up in here.
Yeah.
So this right here is like your node view.
Oh, okay.
So click it.
Yeah, that's the color.
One of those is the node view. Click it.
This one?
So, and then click your mouse right here. No, stop
this
that.
one?
No, stop it. Go back to the node view.
This one?
Now click right here.
Okay.
And now hit Command A, select everything.
Command. I don't have command. I use PC.
Control, whatever.
So it's Control A, right?
Hold on a second. All right, yeah, I can't do it. Okay, so select everything.
Like everything, like
Select everything, and then hit this button right here. Hit this button right here.
Let me see. This one?
Yep. And then just hit OK.
Okay. That's cancel. So I need.
No, say OK.
Okay.
All right, so now go over here. And so click back in that window. Click right here. Right. Now hit 1 on the keyboard. Now hit 1 on the keyboard a bunch of times. Or your middle mouse is your zoom.
Okay. Like this?
Your middle mouse. Yeah, no, that's just moving. Okay. All right, so go back to your main timeline. Nope.
No, don't do that.
No, go back to your main timeline down here.
Okay.
Remember, we've already done this a couple of times. You should know how to do this.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're stressing me out here. So what you need to do then is make sure that this is still selected down here correctly. That can you see my mouse right here?
Maybe you can.
Right here.
This one?
So, okay, so now
Yeah.
go, so if that's selected, then one of these should be highlighted over here. So you said T3, where's T3 over here?
Where?
I don't see T3 over here.
This one?
Okay, so this
Yeah.
little white line here is saying that it's selected. So zoom out just a little bit.
Like this?
And oh, there we go, okay. All right, so now what you need to do is go back to your node library,
No library?
and then you want transparency. So grab one of these and just put it right there.
Like this?
All right, and then there's a blur, so grab that and put it right here.
Blur here.
All right, so so go back to your main timeline.
Timeline here.
Oops, hold on. All right, and then T3 is right here. T3 is right here, so take T3. No, don't zoom in yet. Take T3
Okay.
and
Yeah.
just grab it and move it up to about right here.
Like
All
here?
right, there. That's fine. It's a little too far. That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
All right, so now use your space bar
Space.
and navigate so that use your space bar so that you can see the composite. Oh my God, I'm gonna find out where you live. No, the space bar.
Space bar?
The space bar, just so you can navigate to see the composite.
Why? No.
Ugh, you're
Sorry.
frustrating me
Sorry.
because you're not listening. Just use your space bar to move all this stuff up so that
Like-
you can see
like
where
this?
your composite is. Yes, like that.
Okay.
All right, so now that tells me you moved this really far away, but that's okay.
Okay.
And so just use your middle mouse
Uh-huh.
and zoom out just a little bit. Right, okay,
Like
so now
this?
use your space bar and pull
Uh-huh.
it up so you can see the composite.
Like how?
No, your space bar. Just move it up so I can see the composite. No, your space bar.
Like this?
No, that's too far. That's too far. Your space bar. Just
Space
put your
bar.
space bar on your keyboard and touch it and move it up.
Where is?
No, oh my God, you're
Sorry.
somebody else explain it to her. I'm
Wouldn't
tired.
it be
You,
wouldn't it be easier if you just shared your screen instead of her doing it so she can see what you're doing?
Yeah, but then I can't affect her thing here. Well, try this. Just take this little button right here. Take that little button and move it right here. No, just this little button.
This one? This-
Yes.
Like this?
Nope, underneath it. Put it underneath it. Nope.
Okay.
Yeah, underneath it. Nope,
No, it's
underneath it.
it's
Nope.
just
No, that would be fine.
yeah. It's just yeah. Does that work?
Nope.
Okay.
It has to be in between. All right, all right.
It's never like connect the bottom one. Or this? No. Oh no. Oh. Oh, but that's one says transparency
All right, here's
50%.
stop sharing your screen. I'm just going to show you on mine.
Okay.
You're going to have to figure it out.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right. So this is my so I'm just going to figure out where I am here, and my mouse is. All right, so I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn it off. All right, so I'm going to touch right here in this timeline. What that does is it allows me to know that this is my smoke, and that's what I'm working on. If I go over here to my node view, I can see, and so everything is scrambled around here. So I select everything, and then I hit this, and then I say it's 25 pixels, say okay. And then I use the space bar to move this around. See how it turns into a little hand?
Oh,
It's a space bar, just like in Photoshop. And then I can zoom in and out just by the middle wheel on my mouse. And then I'm going to look for this name. It says keys. So over here, I'm going to say, where's my keys? So so it looks like to me that this is keys, and it's correct. So you see what I did? I deselected and I selected. So now I'm just
yeah.
going to move this up and out of the way. In my node library, I'm just going to do exactly what I asked you. I'm going to take this transparency node and I'm going to grab it right here. I'm going to take the blur and I'm going to put it right here.
Okay.
All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this little button and I'm going to put it underneath. No, that's not working. Hold on. Hold on a second. All right, here's a better way to do it. So I'm going to take this feed right here from this one and just put it into the top of the transparency. Can you see that?
Yes.
So now if I were to look at this in my flower mode, this would go away because it's not rendered. So I'm going to take the transparency and put it into blur. Then I'm going to take the blur and put it back into the composite.
Oh, okay.
So it's got to be a
got it.
linear thing here. So the key goes into transparency, then into blur, then into the main composite. If I go back to my timeline now, you can see that with the keys, with the key level right here, now I've got a transparency node and a blur node. See it down here?
Yeah, I see that.
So now I could just open up the transparency and say it's at 50% right now. And I can just check it and see what it looks like in the render view. And it's still pretty bright right there. So I'm gonna take a transparency down to about 30. And oh, so this is strange. I don't know why. For some reason I've got,
because you open that animation thing. Maybe you close
I
that.
know. I think that I've just got, for some reason, these little nodes right here are on the transparency. And then the blur, I do the same thing. So blur, I have a blurriness set at 0, and I can go all the way up to like 20. I can make it blurred right there.
Okay.
And as you can see, what is on that layer for me, it's just those little bits of dots up there. You see them? Let me bring this down just one more time. And I'm just grabbing and I'm moving those. So I'm just grabbing the number and moving it. So technically what I have on this layer for keys is just these guys right here. So I've got a blur and a transparency on it.
I got it. I got it. Thank
All right,
you.
I'm exhausted. I've got to go shoot myself.
Sorry, not here.
All right, remember, but we've done that. I've shown you how to do nodes at least twice, maybe 3 times before. Okay, thank you, Linksy. Wait, so you got your critique? And you know what, you got your notes, you know what to do. Okay,
Yes.
Uma. Okay. So a couple of things that I'm worried about are just the overall aesthetic of the shape of this cloud. I think we talked about this last week, that I'm not convinced that that little sawtooth is the best aesthetic. I think that you might want to work on something that's just a little softer, a little more like smoke, because and I think you worked on it a little bit, but it's not quite there. I think you want to work on color. You know, you've got like a light purple and a light blue and a blue gray working. You know, I think the other thing here, and I mentioned this last week, that the little ribbons that you've got are moving clockwise, and it's not reading as ominous as a storm because of that. And so you could try that thing where you highlight all of the images in here and copy and paste them in reverse to try to get I think you'd have to do that with everything in order to get the smoke ribbons to match the actual shape and movement of your core. I think your lightning is okay, but I think that you need little clouds down here for where the tornado is disturbing the ground. And then once again, you've got wide open space here that are right near your focal points. I think you need more ribbons. Right now it's kind of, it's kind of like a slow washing machine, rather than, me looking at the idea that these winds are moving upwards of 150 miles an hour. So I think you need more debris down here. And I think this color goes for all kinds of different things. The color separation between the light blue and the light purple, I think that there should be something a little softer there. I like these little dark gray things moving around here, but I think there needs to be more of them. And I think that you can help the idea of your upper right and upper left focal points by extending the clouds so that they're covering this whole range up here. And again, remember, you're going to have more of a better effect getting this thing to be counterclockwise. It's the way low pressure systems work in nature, that anything that's a storm always moves in counterclockwise motion. All right, you got your notes? All right, thanks, Uma. Javon. 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 I don't see you in the chat, and you've been absent for 2 weeks. 3, 2, 1. Your lifeline has been expired. Christian. Christian.
Hello. In full honesty, it's a little bit rushed.
It's a little what?
Rushed.
Well, I would say that in all honesty, it's not finished.
Yes.
I think that you've got a couple of things. You've got a blur and...
Is it all right if I left the class temporarily? There seems to be something wrong with my computer. I'm not seeing a screen. I know that he is screen sharing because everyone's talking about it, and it says on
who's
Zoom
talking?
that he
I
is
don't know who's
doing.
talking.
This is Jack.
Jack. Yeah, and then you're going to come back?
Yeah.
Sure. All right, so Christian, I think that you've got clockwise going too. or at least it appears that way. If you've got things that are moving, they appear to be moving from right to left in
Yes.
the front view. And what that means is that if it goes from right to left in the front view and then left to right in the back view, that means it's clockwise.
Yes.
So that I think that you could try everything down here and just reverse it.
Oh, so it's the opposite. So it's counter.
Well, one of the first things we talked about in setting up this tornado is that it's a counterclockwise motion. In nature, that helps always read that it's a storm.
Yeah, I might have spaced out on that.
So I think that you've got some clouds in here, the little purple, the little blue, the little white. And I think that if you were to have followed them more on 8 or 6 or 4 or even 3, this is the fastest something can move, is that you would be able to follow the actual shape of the cloud better. Like if the cloud was looking like this, you know, if it was just looking something like that, we might have been able to see it better. But because you've got a blur and maybe even a transparency node on it somehow.
That's actually the soft shader.
So whatever it is, I think that that's one thing, but we can't see the motion because of it. And I think that what's happening is that just like with this key over here that we just talked about, if you would have been more strict in following the actual, here's the first ribbon of smoke, right? It's going clockwise. Here's the second ribbon on the next frame, even if you're on 2s. Here's the third one, it starts to go in the back. And then the fourth one, I can just see the little tail. And then the 5th one is gone. The 6th one is gone. The 7th one just starts to come out a little bit. You can see just the tip. And then the 8th one is looks like this. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's how you would plan out this one particular ribbon of smoke going all the way around. 1, 2, 3, 4, just the tail, 5, 6, 7, just the head. And then this one that wraps around, that is very typical on 8s. I don't see that in here. And then again, if you wanted something to move very fast, then you can try 4s. And if you do this, then this cloud and this cloud are right on top of each other in your camera view. And so then you can vary it by, and that's not exactly the way I want it to. You want to vary it by just a little bit so that they don't line up with each other. And so this cloud is here, and then it's here, and then here, and then here. So that application would look like this. So if you wanted to do 4 and you wanted to make it really fast, then you look at this. And so you draw a cloud that's right here, or a little ribbon of cloud that's right there. And then on this one, it's already going behind it, right? And then this one, you can't hardly see it at all. So you might see just the little head of it over here. And then in the 4th frame, it curls around like that. So this one is 4. So I don't see the 8. I don't see a 4. I don't see a 6. I see this center core going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And I think it could be better. I don't see any debris out here. It's not done yet, Christian.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, one more time, Javon. I don't see you in the chat. Christy, is Christy here?
I don't see her.
Christy Lou. All right, take a break, everybody. Take 10.
Cool.
Take 10. Which I've done before in this class.
Mhm.
And I say, let's take a look at this. You know, this is just 12 different frames. and it's moving counterclockwise. It's got a sense of perspective in there. You can see that there are ribbons of smoke that are close to the tornado and ribbons of smoke that are a little further away. You know, that's an effect. You know, this one might have been procedurally generated in Unity or even Maya, probably Unity. Or it probably wasn't drawn by hand, but we're doing it by hand just to control the shapes of things.
Yeah.
So, you know, and then this was the example that one of my students had done, kind of, you know, you're allowed to make it more creative or more graphic, if you will. And we talked about that. I brought up a couple examples. You know, here's one that was kind of in progress, and the ribbons were moving upwards. Remember seeing that one?
Looking back at some of the examples I showed, I kind of wish I picked an idea that had a lot less layers. Because even if they're,
you know, I don't know what to tell you. I think that you do want 5 or 6 layers just so that you have control over it. You know, something like this we had talked about was kind of interesting, and it doesn't look like it has more than 3 or 4 layers in it. But like this little ribbon right here isn't moving very, very much.
yeah.
Probably because there's only like 2 drawings and it's just flipping between the 2 of them. So, you know, there are better and lesser examples. You know, that right there is just like the core project. You know, that you should be able to do in just a couple hours, and then you start making it better. So there's one more file. I showed you mine. So, I mean, it's just a matter of production and making it look like what you're going for, just in terms of your reference. Like, let's take a look at this one. We haven't seen this before. You know, I think that this is more of animation, more character driven. But the stuff that just moves in a circular fashion in terms of tornadoes or reciprocal, that's not what I wanted. Reciprocal cycling motion. You know, even something like this might have counted. You know what I mean? So you, again, when you're doing this effect, you just have to plot out how fast things are moving around the center core and count. If you look at this right here, it is moving very smoothly. So that means there's got to be an equal number, an equal division of space between each one of the shapes. So if I just, no, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to pause it. There, it's not paused. It went away. Well, it's a GIF, so I can't pause it. But you can see that there's like this white, hot white shape right here.
Yeah.
That goes all the way around it. Well, that continues to move. Your eye can follow around it because as an animator, you've planned that this is going to go around the center of this guy who's in silhouette in 12 different frames. Or if this is a 30 FPS, it might be 30 frames. And they're just letting the computer do all the in-betweens and all the interpolation.
Yeah.
So that there could actually be 30 frames here. If you just count it, mark, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Just mark and back, mark and back. Yeah, it could be exactly 60 frames. It could also be 30 frames on 2s, but it still moves pretty slowly. The little debris in this example is just moving from the center where this figure is out. You know, it displays from the center and then it dissipates, it disappears. And so, I mean, this is just another way to handle it. Here's a fire volcano probably. It's kind of the same thing. There's some electric bubble. That's kind of an interesting thing, you know. And again, I'm just finding this because I'm just digging away through the stuff that's referenced on Pinterest from my effects board, which you all should be able to see. So this is not really a tornado. It's kind of like,
But it's still incorporating that cyclone effect.
It
Oh,
is
no,
a,
I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing.
but I think that what's happening here is that Unity is handling the shape of the effects, and I think it's handling it pretty well. Whoever the animator, the artist is definitely controlling those sliders pretty well.
Sure.
You know, this is a good one. There's a fire tornado right there. So I think that if I were to critique myself, I'd say maybe I gave you all just a little too much time, and that you went ahead and did stuff for other classes.
Clarification of like, it's okay for this to be on 4s or 3s would have been.
It doesn't matter. What matters is how it moves and how it looks.
I mean, I would
So
argue
this is
that.
the one that we've looked at before. If you go back and look at all the videos we did for Zoom in this class, this is a really good one just because it has slower little ribbons of smoke going around the core, and then faster ones, and then the upper, and it's in perspective. There's lots of interesting vibrant colors in there. It's got purples and magentas and blues and turquoise. It's got the lightning, which is stylized. It's got the debris. So, you know, this one we've talked about before. It's a really good one for reference. We've talked about this one. You know, I like both of these. Mixing up blues and whites with a black center core. I mean, so you've seen all these. It was just a matter of getting in there and doing it. And this is kind of interesting. It's the first time I've seen this little part here, right? So this is interesting because it's got like the 3 separate sections, the 4 separate sections, just all separated out, so it's easier to see them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that the one failure would be is that I just gave you too much time, and you all went and did different things for different classes. So having said that, you all still can improve upon your tornado. To me, it looks like none of you are technically done. All of you still need to work on it a little bit. So I'm just going to look at my calendar here for a second. We are looking at, this is the 23rd of November. So we have 1, 2, 3 more classes as we get towards the end of the semester, 3 more class meetings. So hopefully I would have liked to have spent today just like giving you all hand claps for your final tornadoes, but you're all still not done. It means you've all taken the step to say you're only going to give yourself 1 to 3 weeks of production for your final. And that's not exactly the best time management. So I'm yelling at all of you, especially you, Farah, because you're so evil. Oh, I'm just teasing. All right, so let's talk about breaking glass. And I mentioned this before, but let's use a couple of reference things here. I'm going to go back to my effects board. And I posted just a, hey, that's not what I wanted to do. So I posted this the other day. because I didn't think it looked like glass at all. It definitely looks like gypsum or stone. You know, both of these. This one, it doesn't look like glass. See how soft these little edges are right here? This one looks like glass because they're sharp. They're sharp. So just take a quick look at this. There's lots of pretty straight lines that are emanating from a central point where the thing broke. This one is that one. Same thing with this one. There's lots of straight, fast lines starting from a center point where the impact happened. Glass, go ahead.
I would say it seems like there's jaggedness, but there's a lot less than you would think, in the sense that don't go overboard with the jaggedness, because the straight lines also give that sense of stress as well.
Right.
That was interesting.
You know, this example that I just had here and the one that was just on the screen, they're both good. It depends on what you're going to do with it.
Yeah.
So in other words, if we're looking at this, if you're just going to break the glass, then you have just a sheet of glass, and then at some point in your animation, the glass breaks. And if this glass breaks, this whole deformation of the actual glass itself is going to happen in just a couple of frames. So you're going to go from one solid sheet of color to this, comma, and then all of these little bits right here are just going to fall. So imagine like this little grouping of bits is just going to fall. The other way to handle it would be, and this is a bit more detailed, right? But it's still going to move the same. You're going to start out with one sheet of glass, and then bam, you're going to have all of this happening, and then this one has very little glass that is missing from the impact hole. You know, this is another good one. You know, there's a little variation in that line going backwards right there, emanating from a central point, and then this little bits of glass would fall out. This does not look like glass. It does not look like glass. So let's go backwards. So I think what it's just doing is cross-referencing shapes. And that's not helping us. I thought that would be a motion. All right, so once again, I think that what we're doing is we're putting shapes in our eye. We're looking at it. We're also looking now at cross-referencing things that are more abstract art that start to feel like broken glass. This one is a painting of what looks like broken glass. You know, it's very interesting. It's not abstract whatsoever. It's more highly representational, but it's good. I like it. You know, this is more art. This is like placed broken glass and leaves together, so it's not exactly what I'm looking for. You know, this is interesting because we're seeing the glass was actually on a flat plane when it broke, and instead of this debris, this shards of glass falling, it's just kind of sitting there. You know, it's kind of interesting. In this image, the glass is just kind of flying, and I'm not going to go back. This one's interesting that there's definitely impact, but there's also an arc. There's like, you can see that there's like a grain to the glass almost, where the impact happened here, but there was definitely a radial arc where lines came together here and lines came together over here. To me, what this looks like is someone had put glass, a mirrored glass, in a picture frame, and that the picture frame was holding this glass really tight in several different places in the picture frame, and when it broke, the glass went to the path of least resistance and just kind of wound up there. So, and again, this one's not quite as iconic as some of the other ones. Let's go backwards. You know, so I do like this. Let's go back one more. This one's got just too many lines in it. And that one's almost got I like this one. And there are other ones that are cross-referencing. So any of these are good right here. And we got lightning. It's almost like Pinterest is trying to second guess what we're doing here. All right, so let's just leave that one sit there for a second. Let's go back to our harmony. All right, so there's a couple of things, a couple of different ways of handling this. So I'm just using this as my teaching file here, and I'm going to open up a new drawing layer. And this one, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call it BG glass. And I'm going to add and close, and it's on the top, which is exactly where I want it to be. I'm going to add up a new one, and this one's just going to be glass. So we'll just start with 2 separate layers. And so in the glass layer right here, I'm just going to open up, come on. Oh, what happened? Toon Boom just crashed. Hold on.
Rip.
Now, I'll use this as just a quick teaching moment. You got to remember that when Toon Boom crashes, sometimes horrible things can happen. So, including just like the one layer that I made right there that's brand new, being corrupt. I've seen all kinds of horrible things. And if I was true to my word here, I probably want to start a new file. Let's just try this one more time. All right, BG glass. And it's in the wrong place. So let's just put the glass in there and then drag both of them to the top. Oh no, they're in the right place. Okay, for BG glass, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give myself a rectangle. And now that Toon Boom has crashed twice, I really have to be careful with that file I was just working on. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to create a new one. We'll see how this works. Create the shot. All right, while this is doing it, the thing that I'm getting at here is that in all of those examples, which you can see just underneath my start screen for Harmony, is eliciting some sort of projectile coming through the glass, like a rock or a bullet or something like that. And what it's done is it's taken the little bit of glass that was just in the middle of it and disintegrated it, and that glass can just fall. That glass in the middle can just fall. All right, so let's do this again. We're going to just do a new drawing layer. I'm going to do BG. We're just going to call it BG. We're going to add, and then we're going to add another one that just says glass. And we're going to add one more, and that's going to be shards. And we might want to add a bunch of different shard layers, but that's okay. We can do this. All right. So remember, the first thing that you want to do is add a color card, or nothing works. So we're going to add just a simple gray background. All right, and I just put that right over the top. All right, so I'm going to make a new color. Remember that in art, in digital art, that anything with an RGB value if they're all the same is gray. So if I just pick a medium gray like this, 90, 90, 90 over RGB is gray. Should be a quiz for you. Anytime RGB values are all the same number, it's either white, gray, or black. All right, so then I'm going to just paint this. And Toon Boom is being a snot right now. Weird. All right, Toon Boom is not behaving. There we go, okay. So, and the reason why I'm doing this is because my glass is going to start out with, and I could do this way too. I can just take this background and I'm going to, we'll just use the full 60 frames, F5, and then I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to use my main select tool and just going to copy it. And I'm going to paste it in the glass. So it's right on top of it. And so it's the same gray, but I'm going to paint it a little differently now. So I'm going to paint this. Oh, hold on. So I'm going to paint this a lighter color, like glass would be clear. So the new color here is just going to be glass. And I'm going to say that this is more white. Okay, that would be fine. So what I'm going to, so we're going to, this is the glass we're going to end up breaking. All right, and then again, remember that this is just a demonstration. All right, so you can see that my Toon Boom is a little laggy. Okay, all right, so just like in cinema, what we want to do is we want to wait a certain number of frames before we actually break the glass. So I'm just going to go out here to frame 18 and hit F5. And so that just extends the white pane of glass before we actually break it. And it's up to you within your final project of how you want to handle it, or whether the thing that breaks the glass is moving so fast that you can't see it, or that it actually comes in from off screen, or whether you're using some glass plane in your composition that gets broken. But basically what you're going to do is you're just going to, on this next empty frame here, we're going to go up to this frame right here. So we're going to go to the shards, and right now we're just going to use a white. So I'm going to Toon Boom. So this is going to be shards, and I'm going to make this a little brighter. So this is going to be a little more towards the white side. All right, and so when I click on the background here, I was looking at a center point. A lot of times what I'll do is, if I need to, I'll make a little layout. But right here from this, oops, I went too far. So from that point right there, I'm going to start breaking my glass. I'm in the pencil mode, I'm in a regular pencil, and on this particular frame, everything happens really fast. So, and we're on ones right here. So I'm going to just, from this center point outwards, and I'm just going to break the glass. I'm radiating from a central point. I'm trying to keep the distances between these two, or any of the radial straight lines, kind of the same, because then that shows the the structure or the nature of the glass. You don't have to be completely mechanical about it. Whatever your eye tends to believe. Vary it, short and long ones. You can kind of see I'm doing long, medium, short, long, medium, long. All right, and then the next thing what I was going to say is that, let's say that we just took this out to F5 and we played it. I mean, that is as simple as breaking glass is going to get. I just saved it. Okay, so if we just play it, crack, the glass is broken. So one of the things that you can start thinking about is that, well, this is going to look better if you put F5 all the way to the glass background underneath it. But what might be more interesting for you is to just take this back down. We're going to let this go to like maybe, we're going to take this all out. So we're going to shift select this and we're going to delete these frames. So we've just got this one frame here. And the best way to do this is to just hit your command button and select everything. Copy it, go to the next frame, just paste it, and then add to it. So we're on ones. We're just, oops, I don't like that. I want to stay true to the geometry of the glass. I like these straight, sharp shapes. Maybe there's another one that grows right here on this frame, and maybe another one right there.
Could we, in between this, because right now it's like, glass is fast, but like,
You could.
I would like to do like one, maybe one frame like in between the initial
Yeah, you know,
impact.
I did show you all how to do keyframe, right?
Yeah, you did it with smoke.
But the issue here is that, oops, and I don't like this. I don't like this little wobble. I think the glass is always straight. It's very geometrical. A little wobble is okay, but
I imagine because glass is so quick, you don't need that many frames. But
right, we've only got 2 frames right here.
But I was kind of thinking back to like the lightning, where some animators I know, when it dissipates, instead of making the lightning disappear, they'll have 2 or 3 frames where it's dissipating, and it's like,
right.
Could you do the same thing with the glass appearing? Where like,
well, I think it's up to you. You are welcome to try anything that you want. You know, it's a natural effect. Glass can be made by lightning for sure, but mostly man-made object kind of thing.
Well, I was thinking more of like the rate. So, but yeah, timing could be experimented too, I'm sure, but it's still a relatively quick process.
Right.
Yeah.
It's up to you. If it works, try it. If it works, great. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy it again. I'm going to paste it into the next frame. And I'm going to add just a little bit more. So we've only got 3 frames here. And again, I've done this enough. I like those little straight lines back in there. So we can maybe add a few of those, right? Just to make it look. And they don't have to be completely tangential to the radiant coming right off the center. They can be a little crooked, whatever works the best. A little bit of variation is always good. Just to make it look like glass. You could even put 2 right here. All right, so let's just take a look at this. I'm going to take this out to F5. I'm going to save this and then just play it just to see what it looks like just with those 3 frames. All right, so I think that the best way to handle this is to figure out some center thing in here that's going to break. And so we've got this thing just kind of laying out for 60 frames right now. But what I want to do is I want to take a couple of these and I want to obliterate them. And so I'm going to need a new layer. And I'm just going to call this falling, or I'm just going to call it a hole. All right. And so, so there's a couple of things that we can do right here. And I'm just kind of thinking outside the box as I'm demonstrating this as well, is that we could copy by using adding a keyframe, inserting a keyframe right here. But I think it might be easier just to copy and paste and then erase. So what I'm thinking of is we might even be able to use this same layer right here. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm just going to take everything out, just like we just did a second ago. And I'm going to just check and make sure that. So I think that one thing that is kind of startling to my eye almost is that all of these little vertical, if you will, vertical shapes, horizontal shapes, whatever you want to call them, they all hit it in the exact same frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go backwards a frame. Hold on a second. I'm going to, yeah, I don't want them to move. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to see if it'll let me copy just one line. Good. So I'm going to go back to this drawing, paste it in place. I'm going to take maybe this one as well. Copy it, go backwards a frame, paste it. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these and I'm going to copy them. And remember, I'm just hitting my command button. And yours would be the Alt button or something on a PC. And again, I'm just going to paint these, paste them in place. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into like this little area right here. And I'm going to just double check this for 1 second. So what I want to do is I want to F5 right here. And what I want to do is I want this to go away so that we reveal the darker background behind it. So we did this gray, right? Oops, we did this gray, this dark gray. And what I want to do is I want to go into this shards layer on this one and start erasing those little bits. So hold on 1 second. Let me think about this logically for just one moment.
If we have the time, do you think you could also, do you know any references, or do you think you could cover like if there's like the glass gets dented, because maybe it's a, you know, if maybe instead of glass we're doing stone or something, or we're, you know, can be very thick, or if we have, or if it's like a glass with an adhesive applied to it, like car glass, car window glass.
Well, safety glass is going to be different. So
yeah.
Let me answer all your questions at once. So,
okay.
So if you go like this and you just write safety glass, one of the things about safety glass, oops, maybe I should spell it right, is that it breaks into tiny little squares, tiny little rectangles. And the idea of the safety glass is it usually tries to stay together as much as possible. And so they'll glue like one layer on top of another, on top of another. They'll do 3 different layers that all break with different radial arcs. And so the window of your car will not break into really, really sharp shards. It'll just break like this. And if it does have an impact, that actually makes it go through it, it just breaks into tiny little squares.
Oh, okay. So that's pretty
So-
easy. It's the same idea. Just have more horizontal, or or just include more horizontals in your animation then.
Or a little more rectangles. But I would avoid this because that's a lot of drawing.
Oh, that's
I mean, look at that. That's like, it's crazy
That is
nuts,
true.
right?
Yeah.
That's just like kind of out of control.
Okay.
Now I forgot your other
Don't do that for the
Oh,
final, even if that
So
technically.
your
is
other
more
one would
realistic.
be is that if you were looking at how gypsum or stone breaks, this I'm looking at, and maybe this is like clay, the hardened clay, like brick.
Yeah.
This is like definitely looking like
Someone, yeah, like.
no, I forget what they
something
call
impacting it.
the stucco, like cement, like stuff that houses are made out of. It's that stuff called stucco.
Yeah.
And that's how it breaks. Now, according to, I'm not sure if this is a actual 3D imprint on the wall or the artist actually rendered it to make it look like it was 3D. I'm not quite sure. It's kind of cool looking. But remember that these shapes are a lot more soft. So see these lines in here? They're not, they do radiate from like a center, but they're not as
They're not
straight.
nearly as stiff. Yeah.
They're more random, they're more earthy, they're more organic.
So for you, if we were using the glass break animation but the material we're using is rock, would we do that for the final? Would we do that, or would you say like play
You
it
could do
safe?
that. Yeah, I don't care.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, but avoid the safety glass because that's just too complex.
Yeah, it's just too much.
Got it. Thank you for
So if
that,
you
because I
have-
probably would, knowing me, I probably would have made that mistake.
So it depends on what kind of rock. Shale is going to break really straight. You know what shale is?
No, actually.
So shale is like sedimentary rock that sits at the bottom of the lake, and every time it rains, there's a little bit more sediment, and it just piles up on top of each other. So this thing is in my way here. So rock and glass share a similar crystalline structure, but a rock is going to break a lot more organically. A lot more organically. You're never going to be able to cut a piece of paper with a broken rock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So look at this one. This one's breaking up into rectangles. Now here the workers have drilled little holes so that they're trying to control a straight break. Same thing here. Sometimes marble will break really straight, for sure. So you can do rock if you want. Just make sure that the lines are more organic and they're not always all straight. There's also more of a random quality to it. Now I think that it's interesting, just right here when you're looking at these workers that are breaking apart this stone, trying to get it to be very, very geometrical. See these two pictures and this one?
Yeah.
But then the other pictures are more random, and then all of a sudden you've got a tree. So your Google search is like recognizing the shape of the lines that you're looking for more than just the word that I typed in for stone.
Huh.
And remember that there's different kind of stones. Shale is going to break completely differently. So shale, come on.
Do some visual research before proceeding.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
So shale. Oh, shale. A lot of times you'll find dinosaurs in shale, because what happens is that the layer in the bottom of the lake gets the little silt, and then it just sits there, and then an animal dies and falls to the bottom of the lake. Then it gets covered up with more layers of silt. And then after years and years and years, you can see the layers. And I'm surprised that I didn't get like a fossil right away, because often shale has fossils in it. So let me just put the word fossil in there.
I think we might be getting a bit off tangent.
No, that's okay. We know what we're doing. We know what we're doing. So here you see them. Like there's your shale.
Ooh.
A lot of times the anthropologists will just go right up to the piece of shale and just tap it really lightly and it comes completely apart. Just perfectly. You don't have to do any work because the fossils are in there. It just comes perfectly apart.
Cool.
So, and that's not a really good effect, right? But there's tons of different kinds of glass. There's tons of different kinds of rock. Just do your own research. You don't have to do this breaking glass for your final. You just don't.
Yeah.
All right. So
But
what I'm
it's
looking
also
at,
good to, yeah.
so what I'm looking at here is the render of this particular frame, and what it is that this is the lines that we just drew, and I'm seeing the one line that is the final line, and then the dark gray background here. If I go backwards a frame, you'll see that this still has the white glass background on it that I called shards, but I should really rename that. So really just on this layer right here, what I would like to do is just go in and erase, like let's just take this little shape right here and erase it. So I'm just going to zoom in on it a little bit. Oops, I'm in the wrong thing, hold on. So I'm gonna zoom in on this one just a little. So I wanna take this shape right here and I wanna erase it. So I can do this with just, erasing. Oops. Oh, there we go. It's just being laggy right now. It's being really laggy. And because it's being laggy, I'm wondering if there's an alternate way of doing this.
I think you're in the render view.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that might help.
Thanks. And it is being laggy on top of it, so come on, Toon Boom. It's being a bad brother right now. I have a feeling it's going to try to crash again. All right, so the thing that I was trying to say here is that what I'm going to try to do is on this glass layer is just remove this little bit. And make it fall. And I had a demo for this before. Look at this. I'm going to quit Toon Boom. My computer's freaking it out right now. Hold on a second. And I'll come back to that in just a moment. So what I'm saying is that you just replace a few pieces of this glass layer by just erasing this little shape right here and then let it fall. And then that reveals the background behind it. And you only need to do that with a couple of pieces that are right around the center. Toon Boom is refusing to even close right now. I'm going to have to force close it.
So we're essentially cutting out the shapes that we made from the glass
exactly,
breakage.
Exactly. And you only need to do like 2 or 3 of them, and then you let them fall. All right, let's try this one more time. And the other option is to just break the glass and to not have anything fall at all. You just break it. You just use 2 or 3 frames and crack, right? The other option, if you really want to go at this, is if you just have like a baseball come through the window, then you've got to animate shards of glass falling all over the place. And I really don't recommend that. This idea of just drawing the shards out here and letting it fall is really all you need to do. That's really most of the extent of it. All right, let's see if I can get this to work again. Oops, hold on, I'm on the wrong layer. So on this layer right here, I'm just gonna cut using my cutter, and I'm just gonna cut out this shape right here. Take that out with it. Delete it. Take this out. Oops, it didn't like me picking up my my mouse, so let me. All right, so Toon Boom is being a little stubborn again. Something strange is happening. All right, so I'm going to Z back out of this. And so I can do the more of a clear, and it's not letting me, hold on. All right, so let me try this. So I'm just going to grab this part. And remember what I'm doing is I'm cutting the background that's underneath, and I'm just going to delete that. Okay, good. So now what I've done, and I'm going to Shift M this, is I've just taken that little arrowhead piece right there. And then on this layer right here in a pencil, I'm just going to take my shards color, and I'm going to just draw this as close as I can on a layer that's on top. And I'm just going to create an asset. And now this strange thing that's happening is that my mouse is not tracking right where my thing should be. Okay, so that is essentially the thing. So I'm going to paint this with my glass color. And now if you pull back out of this, and you take this little guy here, he's on its own separate layer now. So I have to go back to my main select tool. And so this guy right here can move wherever I want him to go. Toon Boom. All right, so this guy right here, I'm just going to copy him, and I'm going to go to the next frame and paste it. And so what I probably want to do is take this, and just as a demo, I'm going to take this glass back here and take it out to F5. I'm going to take this out to F5, and then this is going to, let me just make sure. So this one, it's just here. So I'm going to just take this guy and move it, and he's gonna rock on looks like he's gonna rock on this center point right here. So copy, and then paste it again. And so he's gonna rotate just a little more and fall. And then remember just the principles of animation is gonna speed up. So copy it again, paste it in this frame, and then just let it speed up a little bit and maybe rotate just a little bit more. And then copy, paste it, it's gonna be in the same place. Rotate it just a little bit more, and then it's gonna speed up. If you turn your onion skin on, you can see that it's starting to accelerate, even to the point where that's probably all you need to draw. So let's take a look at what we've got just for breaking glass. What did I do wrong here? I think it's because Toon Boom is being slow. All right, so what I want to do is I see that I've cut this glass at right when this piece started to fall here. And so I cut the glass. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to keyframe it by hitting F6. And so this becomes another piece. I'm going to eyedropper, and I'm going to repaint just this little hole. Come on, Toon Boom. It's not behaving. For some reason, it doesn't like this. I'm going to just do it a different way. I'm going to grab this and move it out to here. I'm going to, so it's the glass color. I'm going to make a new background right here. So this, and the reason that I'm doing it this way is it's more of a traditional 2D animation way to do it, is that instead of manipulating the thing that you already have, it's sometimes it's easier to just to make a new one. That way, there's no question about how it works. All right, so what that means is that I'm going to take one frame away from this. So what that means is that instead of taking this rectangle and trying to manipulate it frame by frame by frame, I just made a brand new one. So it should be working right now. And remember that I would have been able to draw this just a little faster if Toon Boom was behaving a little better. All right, so with this demo, you can see that maybe this thing, which is falling on ones, isn't moving fast enough. So in the way I showed you how to do it here, it's really easy to manipulate it. So let's look at it again. All right, so I think that what I want to do here is this one is probably okay. This frame right here, I'm going to take this guy. I'm going to move him up just a little bit. It's really terrible when it takes like 5 seconds to change a tool. All right, so the other thing that I'm looking at, and let's just take this one, it starts to fall. And because it's the same color, we can't see it very clearly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this white. So for all of this one and this one, and hopefully it won't look too horrible. We're just going to paint it, repaint, white. Come on, Toon Boom. And this is just a demo so that we can see it and be able to see it better with the color being changed a little bit. All right, so take a look. Let's just take a look at this. Now, again, I'm sorry that the demo is really slow. All right, so you get the idea. It's just, and you would want to maybe do 4 or 5 of those. If you've got your hole, if you've got the glass thing that you picked out, and there, you could pick maybe 5 or 6. This one's maybe 5 or 6, and maybe a couple of little ones. Then that's just the easiest way to do it. So you take one background of glass and you replace it with the broken. You use the cutter tool. It's easy. If you wanted to break these apart at different times, then you would just use several different instances of this glass over the dark gray background, and then you just get your glass breaking. So remember what we did here is we, on this frame right here, we just have a lot of glass, just a really lot of glass breaking. I think we did it on this one. And then about twice as much, about 3 times as much, and then just keep it going. So that's just the easiest way to do it. And to me, I think that this part isn't falling even fast enough. So I'm gonna like speed it up. And then this one, we probably want to just, maybe just one little part that you can see. Now that's a Toon Boom thing where it didn't select the lines. So I'm gonna have to delete the lines. Do you all know what I meant by that? So in Toon Boom, you can select the fill and the lines separately. And because I didn't select them together, even on this one, I'm just gonna go ahead and delete them. Because you don't want those things to lag behind. It'll affect what it looks like. And this one too. And man, Toon Boom is being real slow. Okay, so let's just take a look at it now. So I sped it up. I sped up the glass falling. So that looks a little better. I also think that I would maybe want to make it fall a little straighter, a little more straight down, as opposed to curling, moving, arcing. Might be look a little more realistic if it just falls straight down, at least in this example. All right, so once again, I would just repeat that with 3 or 4 more pieces. And I think that the aesthetic thing for you to understand is that the glass, as it breaks, reveals a background behind it. That is the thing that is going to help you make it read like it's actually, there's something behind it. And that could be anything you want. Remember that if you wanted to put a JPEG behind there, like if you had a window and you wanted to put like a little drawing of a scene behind there. Do you all remember how you bring a JPEG into Toon Boom? Or whenever
It was
this
the X sheet, right?
yeah, you have to use the X sheet. So let's just do a quick little demo. So instead of this background here, let's just pull a JPEG in. So you're going to need your X sheet, and that is under animation. It's under Windows, X sheet. So bring up your X sheet. And it's the strangest thing in Toon Boom because they don't tell you exactly where to click. They just say right click anywhere and then import an image. So it might have been selected on that red layer in the background, but it's going to end up giving it its own layer. So we're just going to go find a JPEG somewhere. Hopefully we'll find something that matches our background effects. You could probably bring in a QuickTime movie too, but don't technically want to do that. Let's just do that one. All right, so that's down here. I'm going to turn off this background layer. And now you can see that what it's doing is it's a glass in front of a painting. And so now it's just going to reveal just one little part of that painting. So the other thing that you can do here is that on this glass layer here, because it's on the same layer, you can give it a transparency. So once again, Link C, just watch. Node library, node view. I'm going to put in a transparency node. Just put it right there. And in reality, you can just move these around however you want. Although this drove my instructor crazy. And I think that it drove him crazy because he knows that Toon Boom can be really complicated. And you want to automate as many tasks as possible. All right, so I'm going to go back to my timeline and I'm going to just remind myself that this glass layer was called glass. So this is the layer I want. And so I'm going to put glass on top of transparency. All right, and then in this node, we'll just make the glass 25% transparent. All right, so you can kind of see that now I have to go back in on the whole because these guys right here are now really bright. So I'd have to remember that I called this the glass 28% transparent. So I would do the same thing on this node right here. All right, you guys all get the idea there?
Yep.
The effects always in between, right? Like
Yes.
always in the middle.
Yes.
Okay, I got
it. Always in between. That's the logic. And remember, I'll just do this again. Command, select everything, separate by 25 pixels, and it cleans everything up. And you move things around with your mouse, just like you do in Photoshop. And so there it is. There's nice and clean. You can see the logic. Glass, and I would need to do another one for the whole layer because it was looking pretty stupid down there. So let's do another one for the node layer. And we pick transparency. So you're going to feed the whole into the transparency and then the transparency into the composite. Go back to the timeline view. And then do the same thing. So just call this 28% transparent, or 31 would probably work okay. And then remember that the more you do this, the more difficult it's going to be for Toon Boom to render it. All right, so I think it's a little much. We made the glass so transparent that it's kind of it's not showing the background. It's showing the background too much. So you just have to kind of move it around just a little bit. All right, so let me do one more thing. First of all, any questions right there? All right. All right, I wanted to remind you all of a couple of things. First of all, remember that we did jumble around our order of things. Remember that my idea was to not just go straight through the class and do each module all by itself. I think that combining them makes better portfolio pieces. Your homework for next week is starting to work on your final. I'm just looking at the outline right now for our online class. And right now we are in module 12. So that means we have a solid 1, 2, 3.5 weeks to put together your final. And really, more than anything, I was hoping to just accept your tornadoes today and then spend a bunch of time giving you pointers on what you're doing for your final. So technically you're all behind for whatever reason at all. So you need to do a couple of things, all of you, is that you need to finish your tornado because you've already invested a couple weeks. You know, however much more time it needs to fix that so that it's nice, so that it's viewable, so that I can click on it and put it in the spring show. So that's the primary thing right now. And you've all got a bunch of work to do on that. And then at the exact same time, you've got to start working on whatever you had decided you were doing for your final. And remember that I've already spoken to most of you. And I think that I was last week even just looking and seeing what you were planning on doing for your final. So you should have an idea. You shouldn't, I don't think any of you should be in the dark about what you're doing for that. With the 1 or 2 main points being that a couple of you still had to do water. And I wrote it down. Those of you who still need to do water. Key, you still needed to do water. Farah, you still needed to do water. Christian, you still needed to do water. Got it. And so if you just don't want to put that as part of your final, then you will need to go back and look at the water splash that we did, and then just do one like a very traditional 2D animation.
If I recall correctly, I also have to do that?
I didn't write that down. Did you still owe me water, Jack?
I recall I had the tiny raindrops, and since you said those didn't count, I'd have to do a bigger scaled one.
Well, from my little notes right here, you could probably stand to do a good water splash just by itself.
Okay.
And then that'll help your final grade.
Cool.
So remember that is the one thing. If you all wanted to just go, I'm going to do breaking glass, I'm going to do orbs, I'm going to do mud or bubbles, and put them all as separate little files, you know, I could accept that. But in the rules of rubrics and syllabus, that really just gives you a C or C plus because you did what I asked you to do.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to make it better, then put it together with some sort of composition and make it more stylized. You're always better off working that way.
Cool.
All right, so what I'd like to do is just talk about, oops, I want to do that right now, hold on. What I want to do is I want to just talk about the orbs just for 1 second, just give you an idea. And I think that was just the last little bit. We've already kind of talked about orbs a little bit, but let me just do one more little thing for you. All right, let me turn this all off. All right. Okay, that's good. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to use the same background. This was the splash screen from my website for many years. I've since had to take it down. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you the notion of how to do an orb just a little, maybe a little faster than how we had done it before. All right, so I'm just going to bring up a new drawing layer. Call it orb. And it is not in the place I want, so I'm going to drag it on top. All right, so very similar to the first thing that we did in this class. Who remembers what the very first thing we did in this class was?
Pixie dust.
Pixie dust. And we talked about an orb as part of that pixie dust. So actually I want an arc layer here because I want a guide layer. So I'm just going to bring up a guide layer.
You're not sharing your screen?
Okay, I'll share it in just a moment.
Yep.
All right, so just with this is the splash screen I had from my website for many years. I had to take it down. Basically, no one was looking at it. My analytics were telling me that I was looking at it 95% of the time. So I ended up taking it down. All right, so I'm going to take this guide layer and just put it underneath my orb. All right, so, and this is good. So what I want is a pencil line. I'm going to pick some crazy, stupid color. I'm going to pick some obnoxious yellow, green. I'm going to wait for Toon Boom to get its stuff together here. That should not take that long. Something is wrong with my memory or something. All right, this is going to be guide. Guide, spelled wrong. Oh. All right, I'm going to leave that as yellow. All right, so I've interpreted the orb thing a couple of different ways. Let's do this first. I think that when I was interpreting it, I was thinking about it more in terms of what I had done in my past as an effects animator, and there were things that looked more like you know, this is a really good breaking glass. That one right there. If you wanted to, this one's got a little shadow falling on it. Yeah, that one's nice. All right, so I had one orb picked out. I kind of liked this idea that the orb had kind of a series of fragmented, stylized shapes to the design of it. In one example, the orb can be just a solid shape, like a sphere, but can also be glowing. It can also have some sort of cool fire onto it. You know, so I like that. If I was doing this for a grade right now, I would definitely right-click on this one and bring it up in a new tab and just kind of leave it there. You know, and I even like the animation of it. You know, it's kind of fun. There was one particular one that I liked more than other for an orb. Maybe have to go back. I think the reason that it's at the bottom here, it's because it's at the bottom of our syllabus, and I kind of added it and been adding stuff on top of it. And it's not like there's a whole bunch of examples that are really, really great out there, but it's just that Okay, so this will work, and it's cross-referencing a bunch of other things that I can just look at. So there's a couple of things to think about. One is if you wanted to do an orb, now I'm gonna go back to the class just for a second. Look at you. If you wanted to do just an orb, you could do just this, right? I mean, this is kind of cool, and it's an orb. It's a sphere emitting some sort of plasma. It's got a series of concentric rings like ripples in the water when we were doing our water splash. But here the shape of those ripples is not as organic. It's more energetic. And they also change colors. It goes from blue to red, blue to magenta. So you have to figure out how you want to paint it. Some sort of radial gradient or something. Let's just take a look at this one. This one might be interesting. I don't know if I've seen this one. All right, so this is very frenetic. This is very cool. You could certainly do this one too. I would caution you though, because it definitely has a unity look to it. The shapes are really clean, but it's a good thing to have in your eye. So we've got this one, we just got some little plasma or fire emanating it. This one's good, and we've got that one as well. My take on this, instead of just doing it that way, would be is to go back into Toon Boom, and you could even do it just like I've got it here, where you've isolated the orb into a project all by itself, rather than just adding it to the composition for your final. So on this guide layer with some nasty yellow color, I would maybe consider that the orb is going to come in and it's going to drift. Maybe it's going to kind of go up and around this bat over here. And then it's going to go behind the house, something like that. You know, and you can refine your arc if you wanted to think about more of your focal points and more of staying away from any kind of tangents. You know, that one might be interesting as well. Just in the same kind of way that we did for our pixie dust, but this one's going to be just a little different. So here what I might recommend is that you start out with an ellipse. And let's give this ellipse a brand new color. And let's concentrate on maybe this magenta, something like that. So we're just going to call this orb 1. And as soon as you see me do this, you'll understand why I'm doing it this way. All right, and again, I think that there's automated ways to do this, but we're going to do this more in a 2D sort of fashion. And out here, over here, we're going to hold the Shift key just to constrain proportions of the circle. And what that does is it places the first orb on frame 1. And just to reinforce what you're doing here is that I don't want this orb to be either outside the picture frame or inside the picture frame anywhere until maybe frame 12. I want some sort of delay, but I've already got it there. It's already outside the frame here. So I'm going to take this frame and grab it. And I'm just going to hold my mouse down for a beat and then drag it along the timeline until frame 11. All right, does everyone see? And that's kind of a tricky thing to do if you have just your Cintiq. It's a really hard thing to do with a stylus. All right, so that places this little ball out here outside the frame on frame 11. It's a certain size. You know, it is an orb. It is 8 inches in diameter. All right, so what we're going to do right now is we're just going to cut through it to select it. And Toon Boom is being picky, so I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go to the next frame, either by clicking on it or hitting the forward, the open bracket, hit paste, and it's in the exact same place. Now I'm just going to move it so that it comes into the picture frame just about halfway through the orb like that. Copy it, greater than sign, go to the next frame, paste it. And then I'm going to turn my onion skin on Remember that when we did our pixie dust, we did little hash marks, right? But we don't have to do that again. We're just going to do this one by eye. Remember that when you're moving it, you get that little P right there. That's the pivot point. So you want to move your mouse until you get the actual device. All right, so there's a couple of things to think about right here. Now move my third orb, the second one that we can see, right? Because the first one is outside the frame. Toon Boom. Oh, hold on. I think I need to restart my computer. All right, so we're on frame 11 right here, frame 12. And it looks like it didn't move, so I'm gonna turn my onion skin off just to be absolutely sure where my things are. And Toon Boom is being really laggy. All right, so what I'm gonna do is just work ahead a little bit. I'm gonna copy and paste the orb as it goes, for the center point as it goes along. This center, the center point is gonna go right along this line here, and I'm gonna make it small. Every time I paste it, I'm gonna make it a little smaller. So there's something going on that's wrong right here. And I'm gonna have to try to figure out, I'm gonna delete these two frames. Oh, that's weird. I deleted them and they came back. All right. Hoping to do this quickly. All right, so my main select tool is on. I'm copying it, I'm going to the next blank frame, pasting it. And one of the reasons why I want to bring it about halfway through its shape is because that's about as far as you'd want to get anything to read coming in from off the screen. So if you're working on a chemistry lab or some sort of scientist's lab or something, and you want to have the orb come in from off the screen, make sure you delay it by 10 or 11 or 12, 16 frames or something. Because if you just start the orb moving right when you start your animation, your audience isn't going to pick up on it. Your audience needs, their eye needs to recognize what's happening within the screen for a beat and a half or 2 beats. A beat is 8 frames, and then let it come in. So, and something is not right here. All right, Toon Boom is not behaving. So what I want to do is, I'll pick up on this again next week, but what I'm going to do is I would just time this out so that it would probably be, it would move faster. So I'm just going to make a little mark right here for myself. And again, this is on the, that's how bad my computer is lagging right now. That was supposed to say faster. So I would want to make it move faster through this, make it slow down here, maybe a little bit faster right here, but remember we're in perspective. And so in order to get this to read in perspective, it might be moving fast, but it's smaller. So, but the relative speed would have to be a little bit faster than this slowing. Then this would be kind of an interesting thing here of going around the tree branch and around the bat itself. And then about this point here, the orb is going to go from a size about like this to a size about like this. Now, what I would do is maybe looking back at our plasma thing there. I mean, I kind of like that. And so on each specific frame here, you would want the little plasma stuff to emanate from it going outwards. You can also use radial lines like we kind of did before. And what I mean by that is that you start from the center of the orb itself, and you just have 3 or 4 or 5 lines that are just kind of, you kind of think about it in terms of this example, where so this has got the electricity lines, but for mine, the lines would be more straight. So instead of doing fire, these lines would just kind of come out and go away. And so you kind of set the design of this thing. In this one, we'll go through this and you can paint like a hot center. You can do a radial gradient for the other fill around here. And then these lines are just going to go back and forth. So once again, as this goes through its little path here, it gets to about this size right here, and then it stops. It stops shrinking. And then you can go backwards, and if you want, you can use your main select tool or the transformation tool. And if you get it, you could probably make the first orb even this big as it comes in. And then there's a bigger difference of scale, and then you can make it about that size. And then it might be really cool. So it's just another way to handle the orb itself. In this one might be a really good one to just to talk about the idea of just what the orb looks like, whether there's plasma coming off of it, whether that plasma is a very organic shape like we just saw. And again, that plasma is moving out. There can even be little speed lines that are following behind it, and maybe even just a little bit of pixie dust. You know what I mean? All right, so I was going to try to do that quickly by copying and pasting the main little orb here. And remember that when we did our pixie dust, we just drew it. But for here, because my computer is being slow right now, I would probably pick and go backwards on my thing here and just say the first few frames are going to be fast like this. So that would be my track for the orb. And then somewhere around here, I might start slowing it down. And then you could do that. I mean, it's just a very simple way not to get lost or confuse yourself. And then the heart, and then so I do the orb going first, and then I would do another pass on these little plasma bits coming off of it. Remember that there are, like in Flash, one thing that you can do in Flash is you can take this orb and you can animate it so that the little pulses are going in and out, and these little plasma bits are going out, and that the pixie dust is kind of just random all around it. And then you can take that as a movie within a movie and drag that along the path. It's a little bit more labor intensive than doing it in Toon Boom, but it's remember that the idea is drawing. And so this even starts to look cool, just this little thumbnail here about how your plasma is actually looking. There are a couple of things to consider. I like the idea of a 5-point star right here. I like the idea of 5 points for this little radial energy coming off of it. There is a study in numerology saying that 5 or 6 is more symmetrical. 5 tends to be a little bit more asymmetrical. Both of these numbers are found in nature. I probably wouldn't do 7 or more than 6. 6 is really easy because you can just cross your lines like that. So 6 is easy. It's a little bit more symmetrical. 5 is a little bit more difficult because you kind of have to figure out where your lines go. Both of them are okay. I think that 5 almost works better sometimes just because the way it looks. It's very strong as a star. And then to just let it go all the way behind your element. And then it might be cool to just do a white, black, white flash behind your background like the orb exploded. All right, I'm sorry that my Toon Boom wasn't working as fast as I would like it, or it has worked in the past. So once again, I would highly recommend finishing your tornado as fast as you can, getting it up into the module, because then that way I can see it, I can download it, and I can put it in there for Spring Show. And remember, I have notes about whether you still owe me water. If you can do the orbs separate if you want, or you can put it as part of your final. I will save this file and try to get this file to work for our demo next week. Remembering that we only meet 3 more times. Okay, everybody got it? Questions, comments, complaints, conundrums, criticisms? Nothing?